Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, as is this case. Well, good afternoon. I am browning some deer booger, and this will be the first recipe. It's called Chil Mac. So, I usually don't like adding onion. Even though the recipe says to add onions to brown the hamburger meat, it only calls for a half a pound of hamburger meat, but this is a pound, so I'm kind of adjusting the ingredients a little bit, but I'm going to get this browned up a little bit before I add my onions in. And by the way, this is frozen meat, so I'm going to have to scrape it down with a fork. And then I will be adding some seasoning to it other than what the recipe calls for. This recipe is from the Work Basket, January 1954. And you want to brown your burger, start with a very heavy pot. And this is like a bigger saucepan because you're going to be adding some ingredients and some water to it. Whenever I'm cooking deer meat, I like to add a little bit of this seasoning. And I got this at Walmart. So I usually try to add a little bit of that seasoning to it. So I'm adding that again with this, even though it is not in the original recipe. At this time, I'm going to add my onion. And it's supposed to only be in a half an onion. And then I did add a little bit of garlic as well, because who doesn't love garlic? Anywho, and if you don't have one of these little unique little gadgets, be sure and go out and grab you one, because it makes it a whole lot easier when you're cooking up ground beef, to kind of get it in littler chunks. So I'm going to let this cook and finish browning before on to the next step. So my deer burger is pretty much all brown, so I'm going to add some cooked tomatoes. This is canned tomatoes, by the way. And some cooked beans, which I'll probably have to get a spoon to get them out. So I'm going to kind of mix this together. And this is canned tomatoes that I canned last year, and canned beans that I canned earlier in the year, which I probably need to show you guys how I do my canned beans. Anyway, I'm going to mix that in. And hold on a second. So in this little dish, I got a tablespoon of sugar, teaspoon and a half of salt, and a teaspoon and a half of chili powder, and I am supposed to add that to a half a cup of water plus 2 tablespoons of vinegar, and I use white vinegar. And then I need to mix that together until smooth. So that is what I'm going to do real quick. Next, we got to stir in the vinegar mixture with all the spices. Got to stir this in, and then we got to simmer this for a few minutes. Got to simmer this gently for 20 minutes. So we will be simmering this, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, next thing you need to add is about 4 ounces of macaroni. I'm adding 8 ounces. And then you gotta mix that in, put the lid back on, and simmer it for another 20 minutes.